largest basketball training company in Victoria. He continues to raise the bar of skill development in Australia, working with hundreds of players every week to improve their skills at No Limits private training facility in Box Hill. South super private at the moment because the doors are shut down. Pete has coached numerous players who have gone on to play in state teams, youth league, Big V and NCAA. Pete is also currently a Big V player for the Camberwell Dragons.
Yep,
Pete,
right.
Welcome to the show, dude.
Thanks for having me, Barry. Great to be here.
So interesting times. I want to get in. I think this is going to be such a great episode, and I want to get into a couple of things in a moment. First of all, welcome. So grateful to have you here, and welcome to everyone who's joining us live from wherever you are in the world as well. Please make sure that you put any questions or comments you got in the chat below. Rafi from my team is across all the different platforms where we're streaming live today, and we'll absolutely get the questions through to us here. And equally to hit the like button and let us know that you're watching this morning. So Pete, you're currently in Victoria, or Sictoria as many Australians have renamed it. And you guys have recently gone back into a second stage of lockdown due to COVID-19. How are you feeling with that, dude?
Yeah, it's not. It's far from ideal. We were open at our academy for about 8 days and sort of everything was starting to open up and looking like it was on the up. I was always a little bit skeptical just because as soon as it sort of said it was going to open up and as soon as it did, everyone just went crazy and went back to exactly how they were before COVID. So it was looking a bit ominous, to be honest. I thought a lockdown was probably inevitable.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it was less than 2 weeks after we opened back up and everything was looking good, but back into it again. So
yeah,
unfortunate, but it is what it is. So we got to try and figure out a plan to deal with it as best we can.
Yeah. One thing that really impressed me was when the whole COVID thing hit. So you've been a client of the Game Changers. You run a basketball training facility, which is face-to-face, and you guys were one of the first types of businesses to be shut down during the pandemic when it hit hard, along with gyms and so forth and things like that. And one thing that really impressed me through that was your mindset. And, you know, like I'm such a student of human behavior. Like you can't take me anywhere without me people watching and studying people and reading people. And it's just something I've always enjoyed doing. And so sitting back and watching, I noticed that there was multiple ways that people were handling things. And you were someone that impressed me because you didn't kind of sit on your hands. You took action. You made a decision to reposition your business to move online very quickly when others delayed that response, hoping that things would just return to normal. And as a result, you put in some big days, some big weeks, but you managed to build an online facility that you ended up having. I think you said like 70% of your students were not actually current students; they were new students that you attracted. Yeah,
the key was moving fast because we do have obviously competitors that would potentially do the same thing, and so it was important to get on that straight away. Kids obviously missing basketball are going to want some kind of training. We want to be able to give them some kind of training they could do at home. And as you said, it was some crazy long nights and some crazy things. All my planning from earlier in the year that was, things we're meant to be working on was just out, and it was just, this is the online program, and that was 100% the focus. And had good traction. So we got 110 players doing, we had 5 sessions a week, bunch of kids doing 4 or 5 sessions every single week and putting in a whole lot of time. Sometimes I think it was even more commitment than perhaps we get in person. Just they had less other stuff going on, so they could sort of devote a little bit more to basketball.
Yeah,
so it was awesome response. And as you mentioned, we had 70 new people that weren't previous clients of ours that jumped on the online one as well.
Yeah, and it's just as I said, kudos to you for taking that fast action. In an incredibly challenging time where a lot of people froze. A lot of people had no idea what was going on. There's a lot of uncertainty. They kind of tried to hold on to what they had. I'm curious to know, I'd love you to kind of talk us through your mindset a little bit around when this started to happen, the thinking process and how you went about kind of going from, being a completely face-to-face business to pivoting online and putting that work in.
I guess it's a real tenet of what we do anyway, is not being set in stone with things. One of our core values is innovation, and it's just constantly thinking, why are we doing this, and being flexible and being open to making changes and making adjustments whenever we need to. It's not in any way that we're married to a certain way of doing things. We find a better way of doing something, or in this case, we get forced to do something a different way. I'm going to jump right on that and get straight to it. You know, you can whinge about the fact that it's happened, or you can say, hey, it's happened. What do we need to do to actually, you know, make it work? And that's what we did.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm curious to know the differentiation between that, like you talk about innovation and being quick to move on something, and then the typical entrepreneur shiny thing syndrome, right? There's a lot of, like, most entrepreneurs, it's a generalization, but most entrepreneurs that I meet, especially in their early stages of business, they've always got these great ideas and they're trying to do a million things all at once and wondering why they're not getting the traction and momentum in their business. But they're kind of focusing on all these shiny things and not just focusing on pushing the one thing forward. It's like, what do you kind of see as a differentiation between like the shiny thing syndrome? Because like tell me, was that something that you've experienced in the past?
Not particularly. I think my focus has always been on just the quality of our training. And that's the kind of thing that has set us apart and that has allowed us to get where we are now. Has just been the quality of what we offer and the results that we get players. So that's always been my main focus, and that's what I'm always looking to improve. And that's sort of, I mean, up until recently, we're focusing more on, you know, being able to scale things and being a bit more of a company now. But up until a year ago, my focus was 95% just on how can I make the training the best. Now my focus shifted a little bit to how can we scale that? How can we get that training to people? But I'd say, up until about a year ago, I was definitely a basketball coach first and a business person second. And that's been our key separator, is just the quality of our training. People come and they say, you know, wow, this is different. This is very different to the training we get with our team, and it's very different to the training that we get even from, you know, if they've tried some personal training with someone that does one-on-one sessions here and there. They can tell that what we do is different.
Yeah. And that's led to a tremendous amount of success as well, because you've been a company that you know, up until that point in time hadn't needed to advertise. Like, you always had a waiting list of new students wanting to come in and unable to fulfill that because you just couldn't facilitate that many students. Do you think that's because of your relentless focus on quality and delivery to your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. We spent very little on marketing and advertising, very little time on that in the last couple of years. Just because, as you mentioned, we've had basically a waiting list of players before. So we opened in October. Last October, that is, we opened our academy. Before that, we were basically full. And then the academy, that opened up, a capacity went from about 150 to about 300 sessions a week. And within a couple of months, the academy was full as well. So pre-COVID, I was starting to think we need a second facility. We need to open something up. And then I was actually starting to look at warehouses to be able to open a second one. But obviously that's been pushed back a little bit now.
Maybe you could open a second one in Perth.
That'll be the plan eventually.
Diversify and spread your assets a little bit. If you're watching us live this morning, welcome. Please hit us up with any questions you've got, either Pete or myself, in the chat box below, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you are. And Rafi from my team's out there. He'll be sending them through and we can get them answered for you as well. Also, please hit the like button. Let us know that you're watching. Pete, what does freedom mean to you?
I guess it's the ability to choose what you want to do with your time. That would be the definition.
Yeah.
It's certainly not doing anything, which I think a lot of people sort of look at it as, you know, hey, if I didn't have to work, that'd be great. I could just sit on the beach and do nothing all day, which is certainly not.
It gets boring.
Oh, absolutely. It would get boring. It's good for a holiday, but
yeah,
you don't want to do that permanently.
You know what? I remember I used to struggle even doing that for a holiday. Like, I'd go away and it was like, I don't know, I was experiencing like a near-death experience, like going away and having pressure from my partner at the time to like not be on my phone or computer, because I was so driven for the vision and what I was creating.
I could now, but I haven't been on a holiday without my laptop as of yet.
Yeah.
I could now. So once COVID's done, I can go on a holiday. Finally, I'll be able to go on holiday without my laptop. But I haven't to this point. So yeah, can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
So
freedom's having time to do what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As you often talk about, you know, high value tasks, and being able to prioritize your tasks and actually say, I've got this mental space and time to say, this is what I want to be working on. This is what I need to be working on. It's going to be the best thing for the business, and being able to do that.
Yeah. And it's where the task order comes in.
That's it.
Which is a very, very, very simple tool. I speak about it in the book. It's one of the core trainings we give all new clients. And it's such an easy tool though, because I don't know, like I think the world is so busy these days. Like there is just so much going on. Like there is so much going on that we don't often take enough time to stop and become intentional and purposeful with where we are spending our energy, effort, and attention. And I think when we do that, we can start to realize, like, is this thing that I'm doing right now moving me closer towards my goal? Like a lot of business owners, I believe, they go into business to have more money and have more time and have more freedom, more fulfillment. Yet often many of them work more hours than when they worked for somebody else. They have a lot less money than working for somebody else, and they're certainly not enjoying their business.
Yeah, it's you don't start a business because you want to work less. Typically at the start, you start it because you love what you're doing and you just want to do it non-stop. And at the start of a business, it potentially is beneficial to just put in more time, because you kind of need to do everything. And I was very much in that mindset up until I started with you guys about a year ago. It was just go and do as much as I possibly could time wise. But then since learning from you guys, prioritizing and deciding what is the best use of the time, not just more is more. It's the more important things is more, and being able to do a little bit less, so then you've got that mental space. I think that's going to be appreciated as well. It's not just the time, but just the mental space to be able to focus on it and not have 100 things going on in your head, not have the phone ring, not have the emails coming in the whole time, so you can actually focus on those important things. Yeah.
Well, it allows the opportunity too when things do pop up or do happen, like i.e. COVID. You've got mental bandwidth to be able to make decisions and put the work in required to pivot and reposition to ensure that your business moves forwards. Like, the last thing you want is years of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears to see it go down the drain because something happens and you haven't got capacity to fulfill that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We had a couple of questions coming here. If you are watching live, welcome. Please post all your questions below and we'll get them answered for you. Tim from Sydney. So many competitors in the sports field nowadays. How has Pete's strategies evolved over time to fight customers' attrition?
Well, we've actually, I wouldn't say we're in a niche, but we kind of ended up in a niche unintentionally from when I started the business. I didn't really have a huge plan at the start of the business. It was just kind of a hobby that I enjoyed doing. I thought, hey, I'll start coaching and see what happens while I was working in an office. But where we've kind of ended up is, and it's what we're about really now and focused on, is we provide really, really high level training for essentially any player that wants to get better. Most of our competitors are either providing high level training for high level players, so kids that are borderline getting a US college scholarship, that sort of thing, or they're kind of child minding kiddie fun services for younger kids. And there's not that many guys in the middle. Most of the ones in the middle for us are really small. Usually one person just does 5 or 10 sessions a week with kids, and that's about it. So we've ended up separated kind of in a niche there in between, which has been really good. Competitors have kind of popped up lately and sort of catching on a bit, and there's certainly more competition now than there was 5 years ago or definitely 10 years ago. So we're kind of, in terms of as a bigger company, sort of first in the space, to be honest. So the challenge is on now. Now we've got some competitors popping up that we're going to have to keep raising that bar. But the thing that's really separated us is literally just the quality of what we do, the quality of our training, always looking to improve it, always researching and figuring out, is what we're doing right now the best thing we can do to help these players improve, and constantly improving those methods, constantly improving the way that our coaches coach and the content that we're teaching them. But it's the combination between that and then actually having a business sense of what we're doing. There's some that are business senses without really good quality basketball. There's some guys that do really good basketball training, but they're in no way running a business. They're just, as I said, doing a bit of a hobby as a really small. Yeah. So we've kind of got the two working together, which is, I think, what separates us at the moment.
Yeah, nicely put. There's a bunch of things that I want to kind of unpack in there. We have a couple of other questions here we'll get to in just a sec. If you do have questions, please post them below. Bunch of things you said in there. Number one, like you talked about really the dynamic between Michael Gerber in his book, The Image Revisited, talks about like the four types of business owners or people. You've got the employee mindset, or the technician, which is the one that's stuck on the tools, doing the do. They're the basketball coach. Then you kind of transition to the manager, where it's like you've got one foot in kind of still training and coaching, but you're also now trying to manage other coaches. One of the hardest steps to make is then from manager to leader, right? Which is where I'm no longer the technician anymore. I'm hiring great people, and I'm training great people, I'm leading great people, and they're the ones doing the do. They're the ones managing. Then from manager, you move to entrepreneur, where you're not even in the business anymore. You've built other great leaders that are running your business for you, which allows you great opportunity to innovate, to stay ahead of the competitors, to potentially divest into other ventures as well. So there's that aspect you talked about, is that there is an importance to have technicians in the business, but there's also the importance to have the leader in the business as well to drive things moving forwards. Another thing that you mentioned too that the viewers may not have picked up on was a piece around culture. Is although there is this competition there, you are building a phenomenal culture. You're building a sense of belonging for people that come there with you, which often is missed by business owners. Is building a great culture is not just within your team internally, but it's within your clientele as well. We had a great session last week for a members event. We had a guy, Darius, who I recorded a live stream with a little while ago. He's built multiple companies from like 30 employees to 1,000 in 3 years with no growth pains. And he's done it through core values. And, he said the gold standard is when not only do you embody them, but each and every one of your team embodies them and knows them off by heart, knows how they interact within the organization, but also your customers do as well. And that's a bit that I see missing, is you have some businesses that have these core values that are stuck up on the wall because they think they need to, but they're not actually alive in the business. They're not driving decisions in the business. They're not driving growth in the business. If they do have them, do the staff actually know them off by heart and actively cultivate them day in, day out? And even if they do, often then the clients are separation to that. And that's what I see with you guys, is that you are building a culture. You are building, a culture around core values. You've brought your values up early in this conversation as well, which lets me know that you are actively, harboring that in your business. But then the last thing that you mentioned first was around niching. And again, see many early stage businesses, they go out there and offer everything to everyone, and in hope to just kind of like survive and do well. And that thing that gets them off the ground and gets them moving in businesses is the thing that kills them and stops them growing, because they're too afraid to niche down, because they will miss out on serving people, or there's not a big enough marketplace. Whereas for you, it's like you've niched down, you've carved out a hole in the marketplace. Now, although there's other competitors that are now potentially catching on and opening up, I see that you'll keep doing that. You'll keep looking for the gaps in the marketplace. You'll keep looking to innovate your product and service. And you can do that because you're 10 steps ahead already.
Yeah. Two things that popped in my head as you were talking there. One was the values, and we've just early this year was in our sort of annual meeting at the start of the year in January this year. We really got the values actually put down on paper and had them concreted with the team. The coolest thing was that we got each of the coaches and staff to put down their values that they thought, they sort of picked from a list, ones that they thought best summed up what our culture was, because we hadn't had values set in stone up until that point.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing was they all pretty much picked the same things. Not the exact same word, but very unanimous, both the ones they picked and their descriptions.
Wow.
Really, really awesome. So it sort of showed that they were very ingrained in what we do. And the three things were excellence, passion, and innovation. So doing things really well, loving what we do, and as I mentioned, innovation, being very open to change, being curious about learning new things, and being open to growth.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was so good. They were so closely aligned. So it was a good time when we got those figured out. Still trying to figure out the exact wording of our vision and mission. And I mean, along with that mention of niche and sort of not being afraid to exclude other people, so you can focus more on your niche. I've had to sort of explain to our coaches sometimes, if there's players that aren't really what we're about, and their kids, they're not really there to get better, they're just probably there because maybe their parents sent them, which, we get some of those kids. We're not worried about perhaps losing them as a customer if they're not fitting with what we're trying to do, because having players like that will potentially lose you the ones that you do want to keep.
That's right.
You've got more people that are all focused on getting better, and kids that really want to be there and work hard. Well, then when someone else comes in that's that kind of kid, they're going to see that and they're going to love it, and they're going to be far more likely to stay and be able to get a really good experience from what we're doing.
Yeah.
aligned with each other.
But it's like a high tide raises all boats. It's like if everyone's aligned, everyone's there together, everyone can lift each other up, but rather than having someone that brings you down. That's not just in your team, which we see a lot, but it is within your clientele as well. And I actually think it's more powerful to say no and be more aligned with what you'd like than to say yes to everything. I think that's how you grow a great business, is by the ability to say no to things that just aren't a perfect fit for the vision that you do have.
Yeah.
Question here from Colin from Brisbane. Hey, Colin, how you doing? Welcome to the show. Has Pete ever thought of applying his sports philosophy into some sort of training applied to corporate events, like company team building or mindset training? Great suggestion, Colin.
Thanks, Colin. I haven't, mate. Might be something for the future.
Absolutely.
I all of my focus, to be honest, has been on No Limits, and until recently, I was literally the only employee outside of the coaches, and so I didn't have time to think about really any kind of future endeavors. It was just day to day, get everything done, and it was pretty hectic. It's not something I've thought about, but definitely, personal development and just overall leadership development and all that kind of stuff is definitely an area I'm interested in, and so it's certainly something I wouldn't rule out in future.
Yeah, great. One from Darren Rolsh. Question for Pete. What are the long-term goals for No Limits?
Be the biggest training company in Australia is the long-term goal. So we've got one facility at the moment in Victoria, and the goal is definitely to have facilities all around Australia. 5 facilities in 3 years is kind of my big goal at the moment. So in the next 3 years, open up another 5. And the biggest bottleneck that I see to that is coaches. So getting people that are aligned with our vision, that see coaching as a job. That's the challenge, is getting people to realize there is actually a career in coaching.
Yeah. It was funny. I had an amazing interview a couple of nights ago with a guy by the name of David Rendell, and his kind of branding is the Freak Factor. And he was sharing, like, phenomenal episode. If you guys haven't watched it, definitely check it out. But he was talking about how he's made a career out of everything he was told he shouldn't be doing growing up. It's like, you're too loud, you're too outspoken, blah, 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 blah. And he's, you need to sit down, not stand up. And, he's now living a life where he's doing everything he was told not to do from a younger age. And it's interesting you mentioned about that, is that there is this mindset shift. Often we get brought up and we get kind of preconditioned into society and into what society deems is the right way of doing things, or what we should do. And in actual fact, like, I believe we've never been in a better time than right now to truly follow, like, our heart's desires and our calling and follow our passion. And I think that if you're passionate enough about anything, you've got the ability to make it a successful career.
Yeah, definitely. It's if you care about what you're doing, you're gonna do a better job of it. Simple as that. If you got something, you can be a lot more motivated to put in work to it. If you don't care about it, you're not going to put work and put effort into it, and you're not probably going to get a great result. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to switch gears just slightly. If you are watching live, please keep the questions coming in. Hit the like button. Let us know that you're there. Pete, you were fortunate enough. You're one of the earlier people to get a copy of the manuscript of my book, The Path to Freedom. I'm curious to know, and not only that, you've applied through working with us, you've applied a bunch of the principles in there into your business. Like, I'd love to sort of know, like, what's been the biggest impact for you, or what have you noticed going through that process? The biggest change that I've made within the last year or so is the focus going away from me doing everything. And it's the change of mindset from my company to our company, to a company where essentially a company that exists, compared to a sole trader, compared to my business. So now it's, instead of my business of No Limits, it's I happen to own No Limits Basketball as its own separate thing. And it's that bit of a mindset shift that's been a really key driver of all the things that have gone on in the last year. So up until November last year, when I hired Catherine, who's our admin assistant now, that does an awesome job. I was doing all the admin, all the finances, all the HR, like everything, except for having guys doing some coaching. It was 100% me. And I should have hired someone probably 3 years ago, I would say, to be realistic. But it got to the point where, like, when Catherine came in, she was just like, how have you been doing this? How have you been getting all this done? It doesn't make sense. because it has just been crazy. But it was just that mindset that this is my business. It's growing. I have to do more.
What do you think stopped you? Like, what do you think stopped you hiring? Because it is a common thing that we see a lot. Business owners that are trying to wear 10 different hats, not hiring staff, or they've tried to hire staff that haven't been the right fit. Like, what do you think stopped you from hiring someone earlier?
It was a couple of things. I think it was just the fact that I could get it done, even though it was a ridiculous number of hours a week. I guess I looked at it as, well, I've got the time, just sort of in a way, to get it done. And therefore it would be a waste of money on the business to hire someone. So I'll just do it myself, without realizing that it actually costs you money, because my brain's then not free to actually think of improving anything. It's just day to day having to cover fires.
Yeah.
But it's as well as the time, it's just, I guess, that same mindset that it was my business and therefore I need to be responsible for doing it all. As well as maybe just because I hadn't hired anyone before, there was kind of that, it was just a bit of an unknown, having to give up a bit of control and not, having not gone through that process before, being a bit daunting, I suppose.
Yeah.
Most of the coaches that we've got, or almost all the coaches we've got, are guys that I've known previously, that, either previously coached with them or friends I played with. So that's why I haven't really gone through formal recruiting processes before, which is probably why I put it off as well. But yeah, in hindsight, should have done it a long time ago. Left it way.
I never forget, a mentor taught me, like, many years ago, like 16 years ago, I think. He said, Barry said, stupid people spend time to save money and smart people spend money to save time.
Yeah.
And that was a big breakthrough moment. And I've spoken a little bit on some previous episodes, is that, I guess going up and moving through school and then moving into being an employee, we start to develop this employee mindset, which is like work hard equals, get paid. Work more hours, we get paid more. And so we get conditioned in that. Most of us who go through employment for a period of time, like my employment journey was fairly short. I was employed from, I think, like 14. I got my first job scrubbing out dirty meat tubs at a butcher, through to like, I think it was 17 and a half. I started my first business, might have been 18. But I was still, as I started my first business, I was still also doing security and bouncing, but, develop that whole, like, more work equals more money. And so then when we're in business, it's like, we're almost conditioned that, if we just do more work, we just get more money. Yet it's almost the opposite. The more that we can leverage talent and leverage the money that we are making into investing back into resource, back into time, back into people, back into our community, obviously the faster our business can grow. So there's that aspect there, I think, around the preconditioning. And there's the other important point that you raised too, around you just hadn't done it before.
Yeah.
Like, just hadn't gone through that process. And I guess there's a lot of responsibility of paying a wage for another human, having their life in your hands as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, it's an unknown, it's daunting. It's easy to put it off. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Just, as I mentioned to you, the funniest, the thing is, like, that summed it up for me of what I was doing was counting jerseys in my garage before camp.
I remember.
And it's like, I'm in my garage, I'm in apartment blocks, the light keeps going off. I got to run back out, wave my hand, make the light come on. And yeah, this is when holiday camps have 500 kids attending them every holidays. So there was just no need for me to be doing that.
Yeah. Why are you doing that? It's just had an amazing, I love it when this stuff happens, an amazing comment coming here from Russell. Russell said, my daughter's been working with Pete for about 18 months and won't stop until Pete kicks her out. Pete's enthusiasm and commitment are infectious and have built up her life skills as much as her basketball skills. His reinvention of no limits over the lockdown has been a lifesaver for this dad of 3 primary schoolers stuck at home. Dude, I got like tingles. Russell, thank you so much. What a beautiful comment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Russ's kids are awesome to coach.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. I love it when that happens. Pete, for those who might be watching today's episode who want to find out more about you, I guess the beauty is that they don't have to be in Melbourne at the moment to train under you, have their kids train under you. So if they're feeling a resonance with, I guess, who you are and the amazing values that you do hold and do bring the community, what's the best way they can find you or connect with you?
So our website is nolimitsbasketball.com.au. We're on Facebook and Instagram as well, and they've all got links to our website. So yeah, we've got our online training program, which is called the Limitless Online Academy, which is online workouts each week, drills each week for the kids to be able to do at home. You get training by us virtually, so you can post as many videos as you want. We'll give you feedback, analyze players' jump shot, be able to give them feedback on that. So it's two-way as well. It's not just watching videos. It's you've got us as your coach virtually, basically as much as you want and as much as you need, as much as we can help you out with. So yeah, it's all on our website. And we also offer a free trial for the online program, so people can just give it a go.
I love that. I wonder if anyone else in the world has ever done this before.
They have. I can't claim that. Yeah, there's virtual training options out there.
Yeah. It's just amazing. Like, that's where I think, as shitty as COVID's been and as much disruptions it's created, I think it's created a lot of opportunities as well for innovation moving forwards. And the quality of online events and the online training space that we've seen over the past 6 months, like, it's just been exponential. So look, if you've got kids and you'd love to check out Pete's stuff, please visit nolimitsbasketball.com.au. Rafi put a link in below. Pete, a question I'd like to ask all of our guests on wrap up before wrapping up is that if you were to have a conversation with the 10-year-old version of you, knowing what you know now, having lived the life that you've lived, what advice would you give him?
Hire people earlier. I mean, the progress that I've made now in business, in 10 years since we started, realistically, if I know what I'm doing, could have probably got to this point in 3 years. That's hindsight. So I mean, it could be 5 years down the track when I decided to start learning about all this stuff. So you got to look at it two ways. Life advice. I wouldn't perhaps think I would do a whole lot differently, to be honest. I think the decisions that I've made, given the information I had at the time, I'm pretty happy with most of them. It would just be, and it's something that I've really sort of started doing even more the last couple of years of my life, it's just being intentional about everything you do. Whether I'm in business, I need to learn about business and actually make decisions based on, facts and things that I've learned, and analyze what I'm doing and think, is this the best thing? Why? And that goes for, our health, our business, the relationship, whatever it is, your time, your money, just being intentional about things.
Yeah.
And really asking questions and being curious about whether you're doing things a certain way. Is it the best way? Is there a better way to do it? And just being mindful, and aware and intentional about your time and your money and everything in life.
I think you raise a really important point, and that is, like, consciously creating your future, taking time to stop and check in and calibrate, because it is very easy for us to get swayed and pulled into something. I need to wake up 6 months later, 12 months later and go, shit, like this is not where I hoped to be. Unfortunately, or fortunately, is that every decision that we make builds on the prior decisions and creates the future, creates the current life that we have. It's been created through our decisions. And the more that we can take time to sit back and stop and disassociate from all the noise and all the chaos and all the busyness, and as you said, be more intentional, more purposeful with the decisions that we make, I think the more that we can start to really shape and consciously create our future. And I guess, what I'd say too is, if you are a business owner, entrepreneur right now, and you are wanting to create a profitable and purpose-driven business that can work without you, absolutely get a copy of my book, The Path to Freedom, because that's been 18 years of me doing a lot of things the right way and a lot of things the wrong way. And for the past kind of 9 years, working with many other clients around the world to help them implement the strategies as well that do work. And as you said, Pete, you could have shaved off 5 years of your life potentially had you have been there. Now, you wouldn't probably take it back for the world, because those 5 years, those 10 years have taught you so much. But equally too, knowing what you know now, being able to teach people basketball, you can shave, months, years off their skill level by the fact that you guys have done this for so long and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. If I can give you a plug as well, Barry. The book's amazing, guys. It really sums up a really good insight into all the steps and things that have massively helped me with the Game Changers program that Barry runs. I can't recommend it enough. The difference it's made in my business has been phenomenal, and in myself. So if you're a business owner, I cannot recommend enough checking out what Barry does, both the book and the Game Changers program.
Thanks, Pete. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time and all that you've shared here. And thanks everyone who's joined us live or on the replay. Please keep the questions and comments coming in. Hit the like button, let us know that you're there, and stay up to date with the future live stream series sessions by subscribing to the Game Changers on Facebook. Pete, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome, Barry. Thank you, mate.
Take care. Cheers, man.